Also, I thought I'd quickly mention as well, I've mentioned it in a previous video or two, that I am now doing members only. So there are 2 tiers. The first tier you get, so the first tier is the Cozy Dreamers, which costs £1.99. You get badges, emojis, photo and status updates, and member only live streams, which I'm still in the process of setting up, so bear with me on that one. And the next tier up is Deep Sleepers, which is £3.99 per month, and that includes all the perks from the previous level, plus you get member only live chats, member only videos once a month, and early access to all new videos. But you're under no obligation to sign up whatsoever. I just thought I'd throw it out there if anybody was interested. But that's enough yapping. Let's get into the questions. That's why you're all here. So we're gonna start easy. So I don't know if this is classed as easy, but it says it's easy. What software company is headquartered in Redmond, Washington? That would be Microsoft. So if you're keeping track of points, go for it. Point for every correct answer. Okay. Which US president delivered a series of radio addresses known as fireside chats? Franklin Roosevelt. I didn't know half of this before I made this video. What is the study of mushrooms called? Mycology. That's a new one for me too. Which day of the week does the Jewish Sabbath begin? Friday. Well done if you got that one correct. Which sports company was originally known as Blue Ribbon Sports? It's quite a big brand. Nike. Now, quick question, if you're still awake or not, would you pronounce it Nike or Nike? Let me know down below, because I always say Nike. No, I say Nike. Nike. I honestly don't know now. Okay. What is agoraphobia, the fear of? Heights. I apologise for the wind. We're in a very exposed area and live in a very windy place, so it's not easy to record ASMR without the wind. But I can imagine it might be quite soothing anyway. Which Roman emperor accidentally set fire to the Library of Alexandria? Julius Caesar. Which pandemic affected a third of the world's population near the end of World War I? The Spanish flu. What city is known as the Eternal City? If you guessed wrong, you'd be absolutely correct. True or false? Holland is a region in the Netherlands. It is absolutely true. What is the smallest unit of matter? centers around 6 friends. This is very easy. Friends. Which British band recorded Hey Jude? It would be the Beatles. Which composer wrote The Four Seasons? That would be Antonio Vivaldi. I love The Four Seasons. It's such a nice piece. What is the capital of France? I was recently scrolling through TikTok and I saw someone who goes around the streets asking people questions, and they asked someone this question and they said that the capital was Italy. That one's gotta hurt the Italians. Anyway, the capital of France is Paris. I've never been to Paris, but I have been to Normandy in France. What colour is the tongue of a giraffe? Would be purple, just like my backdrop. In Roman mythology, who is the goddess of health? Salus. I've never heard of that goddess before, but to be quite honest, I didn't pay much attention in school. What game studio makes the Red Dead Redemption series and also GTA? That would be Rockstar Games. Okay. What is the capital of Canada? It would be Ottawa. What was the name of the spaceship from which the final lunar landing took place, and in which year was it? It was indeed the Apollo 17, and it took place in 1972. Which toy derives its name from the Danish words for play well? It would be a Lego, which comes from the Danish words leg. Got it. I does CPU stand for in computing? Central Processing System. Who is commonly credited with inventing the telephone? Alexander Graham Bell. Which US constitutional amendment gave women the right to vote? The 19th Amendment. Who is considered the first American serial killer? H. H. Holmes. Who was the first scientist to observe Saturn's rings? Galileo Galilei. Which female scientist is known for discovering DNA's helix structure? Rosalind Franklin. What disease is also known as the Black Death? The bubonic plague. Who were Henry VIII's 6 wives? A point for each one if you can get them. So we have Catherine of Aragon, Anne Boleyn, Jane Seymour, Catherine Howard, Anne of Cleves, and Catherine Parr. He liked Catherine, didn't he? And an Anne. Jane was the odd one out. Who was England's longest ruling monarch? Be Queen Elizabeth II. She ruled a while, I can't remember. What are the 7 wonders of the world? A point for each one again. 7 wonders of the ancient world. I must correct myself there. So we have the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, the statue of Zeus in Olympia, the Temple of Artemis at Ephesus, the Mausoleum at Halicarnassus, the Colossus of Rhodes, and the Lighthouse of Alexandria. I can safely say I've never visited any of these, sadly, but what year did Titanic sink? Be 1912. Which show created by Vince Gilligan is a prequel to Breaking Bad? Be Better Call Saul. I've always meant to watch both those but never gone round to it. confused, but he was actually called Mortimer Mouse. A little hint to the Sims fans out there. Well, unfortunately it sounds like I'm going to have to wrap up filming pretty soon as the hill has set in, but I'll give you another one or two questions just because why not? In Australia, what is a Kylie? And no, I don't mean Kylie Jenner or Minogue. It is a boomerang or a hunting stick. Insulin is commonly used to treat which medical condition? Diabetes. Who is the author of Oliver Twist? Charles Dickens. What is the